Okay, let's talk into one of my least favorite diagnoses. What would that be? Unexplained infertility. Okay, so first of all, the reason I find it so frustrating. So my background is I'm a nurse practitioner, and when people like myself get diagnosed with unexplained infertility, it usually just means that they haven't done a thorough workup or a workup at all. For some people, isn't that so fun? So unexplained fertility basically means like we don't know why you're getting pregnant or you're not getting pregnant. We don't know what's going on. Okay. But it doesn't mean that nothing is wrong, and it doesn't mean that you're broken, and it doesn't mean that you won't be able to get pregnant on your own. Okay. And that's the biggest takeaway for so many diagnoses, PCOS, and like thyroid, autoimmune disorders, like all of this can still mean that you can get pregnant. Okay. So unexplained infertility just means we haven't figured out what's going on. Okay. So it is normal to be frustrated and confused and dismissed when you are told that you have unexplained infertility and we don't know why you're not getting pregnant. Move on to IVF. Okay. So that's kind of why I started this business, because I feel like there is so many people that fall in this gap of like, you haven't gotten pregnant in this time frame that we have made up for we expect you to get pregnant by. And we're not going to work it up any further, so we're just going to kick you off to the next person. So here's what to do kind of like in the in-between, which is usually this like diagnosis of unexplained infertility. Okay, so a lot of times when you are told like, okay, we're going to run some labs. Okay, what does that mean? Are we just doing like a CBC and a CMP? Because that is not really going to tell me anything about fertility. So it usually means like your basic labs that aren't related to fertility at all. Usually we're normal. Cool. That wasn't really helpful. If you haven't had a semen analysis, you probably shouldn't be diagnosed with unexplained infertility, because we need to know that. We need to understand if we are struggling with infertility, are your tubes open and working? Because if you haven't checked, then we don't know, which means we can't say that that's not the cause, right? So we need to know, are your tubes open and patent? Are you ovulating? If you're not ovulating, then it's not unexplained. We know why you're not getting pregnant, or at least part of it. Now, we may not know why you're not ovulating. We may need to dissect that more. But if you're not ovulating, you can't get pregnant, and that's a reason, okay? So in unexplained or inexplained infertility doesn't mean it's untreatable. It just means you've had an incomplete evaluation, okay? So a lot of things that usually get missed are looking at egg quality and egg quantity. We need to understand like what's your baseline, where are you at, what's going on. We need to make sure that we're supporting egg quality through mitochondrial function and certain supplements to help with that. And we need to make sure that we're managing inflammation. With DNA related like sperm issues, sometimes we're going to see that oxidative stress is causing sperm issues. We can have some DNA fragmentation, lifestyle, heat exposure, those types of things can negatively impact sperm quality. Okay. Hormonal things that can impact fertility, thyroid function. And I don't just mean that you've had a normal TSH, like is your thyroid actually functioning well? What's going on? And is your thyroid functioning optimally? Not just like, is your TSH within a certain range that we as medical providers have deemed appropriate for thyroid function, but is your thyroid functioning in a way that is going to support your egg, ovulation, etc. Okay. Insulin resistance, that can be a big contributor to understanding unexplained infertility. Like if we have some real insulin resistance, that could definitely be explainable. We do also need to understand like anatomy, so making sure that like uterine lining, uterine shape, etc. is normal. Certain things that may impact that or affect autoimmune and uterine health, I guess. Endometriosis, chronic inflammation, autoimmune patterns, all that may impact it. So when you're diagnosed or told that you have unexplained infertility, you want to make sure that those things have been checked and evaluated, and not just keep trying like, oh, they don't know why, we're just going to keep trying. No, we need to understand a little bit more, right? So let's not repeat the same thing. Let's not do the same 2 labs. Let's really start to kind of dig in this. How to start getting real answers and how to start explaining the unexplained. sometimes getting a different perspective, working with somebody different, seeing a different healthcare provider who's more comfortable with this. A new set of eyes can go a long ways. Looking at trends, like what's going on with your cycle, what's actually happening, looking at your lab work, where are we trending? Are we trending in a good way or a bad way? Sometimes looking at sperm quality besides like as just standard semen analysis can be beneficial, but also looking at males' overall health. Like it's not just about like one measurement of your sperm, right? Like we need to understand what else is going on. If it was subpar or suboptimal, like what can we do to improve it, etc. We need to also understand like inflammation in the body, gut health, underlying issues, metabolic issues, autoimmune issues, all those things we need to understand. And we need to optimize both partners, okay? So if we are just working with the female partner, then that's only going to get us 50% of the way. Okay, it takes two people, right? So if we're only working on females, that's not going to get us what we need. We need both partners to be engaged in making an effort and making those changes to improve egg and sperm quality, because that is what it takes. Okay. Another thing is, talking about IVF. If we're just like fast tracking to IVF or even IUI, but we don't understand why, I think that can be a bad idea. Okay. If they are recommending that you do IUI, but you haven't had a test to understand if your tubes are patent, you're wasting your time, your money, your energy, okay? There is certain things that need to be done first, and you would be blown away by how structured some of the workups that I see are. So yeah, we need to know before you do IVF or IUI, at least some sort of understanding of why we think that this is going on, because there are different outcomes and there's different things that you need to prepare for both of those options. And you want to understand like what your risks are, right? So if you have really profound endometriosis, there are some treatments that are going to work better for you than others, okay? If you have PCOS, usually that's going to be, you're going to do really well with IVF. You have lots of extra follicles that are coming to the top. So there are certain things we just need to understand first. And you want to prepare, right? So if we don't really understand why you're needing IVF, I think we really need to try our best to understand why with a more thorough evaluation. And we also need to prep as good as you can. So if we don't totally understand why, and we've really looked, which honestly, I don't think I've ever worked with a client in the last 3 years that I haven't found something that I'm like, this is a big reason. This is what's going on. I lost my train of thought. Okay, so we just want to prepare for IVF and get the best outcomes. Because if we don't know, then we need to like hone in on improving egg and sperm quality as best as possible so that you get the best outcomes. Because if we're coming in with subpar, suboptimal egg quality and sperm quality, we're going to have suboptimal embryos. Okay, so what is it? Like GO, I think is one of the terms I learned in nursing school. Garbage in, garbage out. If you give bad data in, you're going to get bad data out. If you've got bad egg and sperm quality in, you're going to have bad embryo quality. Okay, we're not going to see that one is changing and developing the way that we want, which is why it's so important for egg freezing people, is because like if you're living your best party life, we're probably not going to have the best egg quality. And we want to make sure that if you're spending the time, money, energy, etc. on this, like get the best freaking outcomes, okay? Like do what you can. Prep for 3 months. I always say like you wouldn't show up in Boston to run a marathon if you had not trained. You should not show up to an IVF clinic without some sort of preparation before you go through that process, okay? And so a lot of times my clients that are diagnosed with unexplained infertility, we figure out what's going on, we fix it, and they get pregnant. Easy peasy, okay? So you just need support. You need customized care. It's not one size fits all. And so I want you to kind of be thinking about these things and understanding and where you fall in that. So, yeah. So if you're ever interested in working together, I see clients one-on-one. I do deep dive evaluations, whereas we have one 90-minute meeting after I've reviewed all your medical information and can give you some kind of input in each pillar of fertility. And then I also have a course if you're just like, okay, I just want to start prepping and planning and looking for red flags. There's also a course available on my website that will talk you through literally everything that I work on with my clients. It's just not customized. So sometimes planning to do a deep dive and then I can kind of guide you on the course can be a great way to stagger and to do that if you have the time. If you are older and you are overwhelmed and taking a course is just like you can't fathom that, the one-on-one package is probably a better option for you. Okay. All right. Hope that was helpful per usual.